Sabah everybody and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the RedMagic 7. This is a gaming phone through and through, meaning this is not trying to be a flagship that does well at gaming. This is a phone that's trying to give you the best gaming experience in early 2022. And what that means essentially is the 8 Gen 1 and of course latest specifications, 18 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage. You know, the features go on and on. But why did I title the video that this phone is hot? I'm talking about it in a sense of a couple of options. A, we're talking about performance, gaming experience. Is this literally the best option we have? And then on the other side, we're also going to be talking about temperatures and how do we manage the temperatures on a device that's trying to give us the best experience on Android. This is TK and this is the RedMagic 7. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So this is a RedMagic 7 at its best form. It runs 18 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of internal storage, of course the latest camera setup, but of course the main thing here is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. We have a fast charging that's included in the box, as well as the fact that this is an accessory you're able to pick up. This is the RedMagic 7 or the RedMagic cooler that was released last year with the 6 series, but it actually works perfectly with the RedMagic 7 and it still is the latest cooler that RedMagic offers on the market. In the box, they do include a case so that you're able to protect your phone. But at its core, as you can already hear there's the fan there, of course, the flashing LED. This is a gaming phone. The RedMagic 7 and the RedMagic 7 Pro are very similar when it comes down to specifications. They're both running the same processor. They're both running similar configuration as far as storage and RAM. Some of the main differences you'll notice is the display technology on the 7 goes all the way up to 165 frames per second. And that's one thing you're able to do here. On the RedMagic 7 Pro, 120 frames per second will be the maximum. Although the 7 Pro technically does have a better touch response than the 7 than we have on the 7, and of course also a larger battery at 5,000 milliampere, and here we're basically at 4,500 milliampere. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is so that you understand that the information that I'm sharing with you guys today should actually apply to both of them. I'm not certain, and I don't think that the changes between the 7 and the 7 Pro are enough for us to basically say that the 7 Pro will perform better. But I'll explain to you my testing scenario and what I was able to do. First and foremost, there's a couple of things we need to know. The RedMagic 7 and the 7 series, or RedMagic offers us an option here called power separation or charge separation. This allows us to actually use an external power source like the power brick that comes with the phone to charge the phone, or at least use the phone on external power without charging the battery. And then what that means essentially is when you're playing games, if you're familiar with with devices and so on, 90% or a good number of the temperature, not 90%, but a good number of the temperatures that we get on the back is from the battery discharging at a fast rate, and that typically generates heat. So for that matter, the charge separation allows us to run it on power source from the outside, at least reducing that temperature issue from there. And then the other scenario that we're also going to be running here is using the standard existing cooler that we have built in here, intake on the top and on the right, and of course exhaust on the left. This is going to be the standard configuration if you pick it up directly from RedMagic. But we're also going to be using the dual fan cooler that they also sell as a separate accessory. This is not included. And this allows us to actually, using air intake, ability actually dropping the temperature on this. And it actually can get somewhere around the 50 degrees Fahrenheit here to be able to provide cooling to the back of this phone. Although there's some challenges with this on this phone, and I need to explain to you guys when we get there. So first scenario that I ran there is I was running Undead Horde. This is a game that I find very, very enjoyable, but it also is a very demanding game that can actually push a device to its limits. So we'll go ahead and we're jumping it right now. They have the new gaming system here. Let's go and swipe one more time. You're able to configure different options. I left the phone in balance. I did not go into rise, which means overclocking the system. So go ahead and turn that on. And that allows the phone to actually run in a more I guess, well-managed situation. So we left it at balance, and again, you can customize all the other options. You can also turn on that little feature that I have at the top that shows me the frame rate. And if we go into options in here, we go into graphics, as you can see, I have all of the highest settings on this game set up and running. So I am not trying to limit the phone. I'm trying to get the best experience on a gaming phone meant to give me the best experience on an Android smartphone. So Undead Horde, again, definitely one of the examples I was playing there. But what I'll say here, and that was the fan, by the way, now that we understand the rules of how we're going to be testing this, the one thing I will say to you guys, many other companies or many devices on the market right now are throttled, are limited, frame rate limited, and they're trying to manage, or companies are trying to manage the 8 Gen 1 to provide you a more consistent gaming experience while providing temperatures that are more acceptable. It depends on what you're trying to do. I'm trying to explain to you guys, I know it kind of sounds like I'm talking back and forth, but the reality of the matter is, To this point, right now, prior to this phone, with my experience of using these devices, it's either I've basically been provided a gaming experience that's limited to around 60 frames per second with a processor that's not running at its full potential, or we are getting the device that runs the system to full potential, but then after a short amount of time starts tanking, meaning there's not enough cooling and the management of the system is not giving us enough performance management to be able to allow the phone to be consistent and stay running at a consistent frame rate, meaning you're enjoying the gaming experience that you're getting there. So when I saw the RedMagic 7, because of my previous years of using earlier generations, again, I've used them ever since the RedMagic 3, I knew that they would provide us a certain experience, and one of those is the fact that it would be untethered, and of course no underclocking, no performance limitation. The reason why I'm mentioning this is why I used Undead Horde. At 120 frames per second, this game is much more enjoyable than running it at 60 frames per second. It runs great at 60, but to truly enjoy it, you want to be able to push the system to its limit. The full power of the 8 Gen 1, the battery, the technology that we have in there, the 18 gigs of RAM, the 256 gigs of internal storage, all of those things are utilized to give us that experience. So when I ran it the way it's supposed to be, the phone by itself using the built-in cooler and playing it at full throttle, I did have the display set at 165, although the game only went up to 120, so 120, 121. I didn't want to have the system setting be the limiter for the game so that I didn't get any kind of limitation. It ran pretty well. The temperature was basically running somewhere between 130 to 131 on the back and 125 to 128 on the front. So it ran hot. But this is the kicker. The game was running at 100 to 120 frames per second consistently for over 30 minutes. And what I'm talking about here is the phone does the job it's supposed to. It's dissipating the heat. It's dissipating it on the front display, it's dissipating on the back around the camera sensors, but it's also dissipating it through the fan. But one thing to mention is that it will definitely get pretty warm, and it actually got to the point where it was too warm for me to keep my finger on the left side of the display, the area where we use the directional pad to be able to move around. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The phone can definitely run hot, but it also can run really good games at a high frame rate for an extended amount of time. So something like a gaming controller or maybe a mount would definitely be very functional there, and you could definitely enjoy gaming on this. So I decided to push it a little further, and I wanted to see what else can I do to manage it, to try to bring down some of those temperatures, but still maintain that gaming experience. So the next scenario I decided to go in there is using the actual cooler that was sold by RedMagic. Now, this thing I want to mention is very specifically, is something that you want to be aware. It has a couple of wings on the side, but it extends on the top and bottom to be able to mount to the phone. It's not only working, well, it will not only work with RedMagic devices, it'll actually work with almost any smartphone, as long as it provides power pass-through through USB. So as long as your phone doesn't have any limitation on that, you'll be able to download the application and then use this on any smartphone, and it does the exact same job. The same functionalities and everything like that, both the RGB, all of that good stuff. When I ran this with the phone and in the case on it, I didn't get the maximum amount of temperature reduction that I wanted, because the cooler was actually cooling the case, and then that had to go through from the case to the phone. It provided me protection for my fingers when I was holding the phone, but the temperature on the phone wasn't getting the benefit of that. So I went ahead and the temperature stayed around basically the upper 128s, close to 130. So the next step I decided to do is let's go ahead and use the charge separation, that function that we have in there that limits the system, or essentially eliminates the battery out of the equation, uses external power source to power the phone, and at this point we no longer have heat generated from the battery being dissipated at a fast rate. So that also kind of plays in there. Now that's supposed to provide us cooler temperature. In theory, it did, but what it ended up doing is, because we didn't have any more heat coming from the battery, the phone actually kind of ran a little bit a better performance. The frame rate got a little bit better. So it was actually closer to staying around 120 for most of my gaming. Unfortunately, that also still generated temperature. So that, again, now we're talking about the 8 Gen 1 and the fact that it actually still is a very power-hungry processor. But at this point, again, we're still getting a very consistent gaming experience on a phone that is doing the job that it's intended. It's dissipating the heat that it has to allow the system to keep running at the full potential that you want it. Now, the next thing I decided to do is obviously go in and start using the cooler, and we ran it in a couple of scenarios. With the case on, this did not really work as well as it's supposed to. It needs to be on the back of the phone. It needs to be able to provide that cooling temperatures directly into the back of the smartphone. And actually, when I did do that, it actually ran much, much better. Now, there was two ways to power this. You can power directly from the smartphone, and in that scenario, unfortunately, that kind of backfired a little bit, because what happened essentially is the phone was no longer just dissipating the heat from the battery and the phone to give us the best gaming experience. It was also having to power a dual fan system that's sitting on the back, which meant the battery was draining at an even faster rate. So although we had cooling, we weren't really getting the full benefit of that because the phone was generating more heat. So the temperatures kind of played a little bit weirdly there. My recommendation, if you are going to look for a gaming experience and get it sustained for an extended amount of time, is actually to pick up the cooler from RedMagic, but power it externally. The way I was doing it, I was using an external power bank. After I configured the fan by connecting it to the phone, I configured it to run at I think it was like high turbo, and what this essentially is running it at full blast, and of course customizing the color. You no longer really need it to be connected to the phone. It remembers those settings and it'll work at that next time you connect it. And for that, I actually got much better temperatures, somewhere around the 110 to 115 on the back, which is a little bit more acceptable. And on the front, it actually surprisingly helped as well. I was closer to running to about 120, under 120 on the temperatures there. Extended gameplay from there is going to be the best experience there. But the one thing I will say, the cooling solution that RedMagic is offering us here is very unique, and it is something that they're trying to actively work at to provide you a better cooling system. Now, unfortunately, this is not an accessory that comes in the box. And it may come in the Pro box, I don't know. This is, again, the RedMagic 7, not the 7 Pro. So on the 7 Pro, you do need to pick this up, and if you are picking it up directly from their site, I highly recommend you picking one of these guys up. This will give you the best situation, the best performance, and of course, gives you the full potential of what the RedMagic 7. What RedMagic has been able to do and provide us and prove to us here is that they can manage the temperatures on the Egg Gen 1. Now, does that mean the phone will not get hot? No, this phone definitely needs to be temperature managed to run at the full potential. If you cap it to 60 frames per second or 90 frames per second, you're definitely going to get better temperatures, and I think on a day-to-day activity for those type of games, you're not going to have a problem. But on a day-to-day basis, if you're deciding to play games, let's say PUBG, Fortnite, or games that are intensive, like system intensive, and you run them for an extended amount of time, you need to look at some options for cooling and better configuration. Playing games with the case, for me, was always the better situation because it separated my fingers from touching the phone on the back. Although, when the heat dissipation goes through the front, which is something that I wish we weren't doing, but again, it is one of the solutions they do, and that gets the front panel a little bit too warm. So you do need to kind of figure that part out. A controller would definitely be the better option. At the end of the day, do I recommend this phone for somebody that's looking for a gaming phone? The reality, it's a little bit of both. I would recommend this for somebody that's truly a gamer that understands what you're doing and what you're going to be getting out of this device. Untethered, full potential of the Egg Gen 1. It's going to give you the best performance. And again, in the configuration that I got, you get the best of both worlds. So 18 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, headphone jack, cooling system, and of course, a really good design as well with the phone that we get it there. Now, if you're getting this and you're worried about, like, I don't really want to get the phone that gets warm and you don't want to deal with that, there are other options on the market, but again, the tethered, or at least the limited factor of those games, will impact what you're doing. So get the device that works the best for you. If you're a gamer and you truly need to focus on getting the best gaming experience, for me, this is something that I always look for. Like when I look for a gaming experience, I realize that the monitors behind me can give me a very large monitor and it gives me a really high refresh rate. But I also accept the fact that these monitors generate a lot of heat. This is something that you probably don't think about when you're picking up a gaming monitor. These they generate a lot of heat. Your PC that you're getting there, most gaming PCs that you get in there, one of the reasons why they have so many fans inside and where you get the RGB and all of that, it's heat dissipation. Gaming systems, demanding a system that performs at a high performance level all the time, needs cooling. This is why we need this type of technology, and we need better options as well available on the market. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is something, again, I've been using RedMagic devices for quite some time and I'm very happy with this one. It does get hot, but it also does give you some of the hottest gaming experiences on the market. So I'm a little bit torn, but as a gamer, as a person that needs that type of power, you know now what you need to do to be able to manage that and get the best out of it. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. Again, let me know what you guys think of this video. I'll see you in the next one.